Client dependent, client independent.
Client dependent data and independent.
Client independent.
What are the client dependent data?
User master
User
data,
master data, application data, client specific data.
client specific customizing data.
What are the cross client data?
Cross client
Cross-client
data
customizing
and
data,
repository
repository.
data.
Cross client customizing data and repository.
Repository.
What is the meaning of repository data?
The programs,
Data
creates,
directory logic and the
the software
program
content.
screens menu options.
Okay, the programs, reports, screens, menu, everything, the software content, right? Okay. So from last session, please mute. From the last session, we understood we need to move some data from development system to quality to production. Right?
Production.
So overall, we are having five types of different types of data: user master data, application data, and client specific customizing data, cross client customizing data. Right? So what data we need to move from development to quality to production? Out of these five datas, what data we move? Do we move user master data from development to quality to production?
No, sir, we don't.
No. Users are separate for each and every client, right? In development system, users are different, quality users are different, production users are different. If your users, whenever you create a user, if it is prompting for a transport request, so you have to move that to quality to production. If you do like that, if it is prompting for a transport request, if you create a developer user, he has to come into quality as well as production. But it is against to the thumb rule of any software. No developer should have access to production. Okay, so user master data don't generate a transport request. Remember this point. User master data don't generate transport. User master data means if you create a user, it won't create a transport request. Next thing, application data. What is the meaning of application data? Business data. Do we have business data in development system? No. So there is no concept of moving application data from development to quality to production. Leave that. So user master data don't generate a transport request, and application data we don't have. There is no concept of transport request for this. And remaining is what in client specific data. Three data are there in client specific. What are they? User master data, application data, and client specific customizing data. Can I show you that image? Otherwise, is it fine with everyone?
No, is it fine?
Okay, right. So client specific customizing data. What is the meaning of client specific customizing data? Client specific. It is specific to that particular client, and customizing data. Client specific customizing data means customization means what? Settings. Client specific settings. The name itself suggesting it is a client specific settings. If I change that, if I do some changes, it will affect that particular client only. If your system you are having 3 clients, it won't affect all 3 clients. Another setting is what? Cross client settings. Cross client customization means across all the clients these settings will impose. So there are 2 type of customizations. One is client specific customizations, cross client customizations. So this client specific customizations we need to move from development to quality to production. What is these settings? For example, branch code, IFSC code, okay, branch ID, these are all right. And cross client customizing means bank name, okay.
Common for everyone.
What?
Common for everyone.
Common for everyone, right? So we have to move cross client customizing and client specific customizing and repository as well. Why we need to change the repository? Why we need to move the repository? You are doing some changes to affect on your production, right? That is the reason we have to move the developments, enhancements, modifications and customizations to your production system. So if you go to client settings now, everything is in client only. If you understand this client concept well, for example, if I go to 100 client, if I open that settings, what is there in that setting? See, the first setting is changes and transports for client specific objects. You know what are the client specific objects? User master data, application data, and client specific customizing data. These three comes under client specific objects. So this setting is related to that three: user master data, application data, and client specific customizing data. And cross client object changes. Cross client objects means what? Cross client customizing and repository. These two are cross client, these three are client dependent, client independent, right? The first setting, if you observe now, changes and transports for client specific object means it is asking for the permission in 100 client. Can I change client specific objects? Can I transport client specific objects? It is asking for two permissions here. Okay, automatic recording of change. If I say no changes allowed, means you are saying it is a development client. In a why you use development client? To do some changes, na? So we don't go with this option. The second one is changes without automatic recording. What is that meaning? Changes without automatic recording means you can do some change, but it is not recorded as a transport request. So you cannot move that change to quality and production. So I don't go with that. The good option is automatic recording of changes. Means if you do any change to client specific objects, it is recording as a transport request. Which one is looking good out of these three?
Automatic
recording of changes. And remember, out of this client specific objects, three objects, only one will create transport request. What is that? User master data, application data, client specific customizing data.
Client specific customers.
Out of these three, user master data don't generate a transport request. Application data don't generate a transport request. Here he is referring to client specific customizing data only, not all client specific objects. All client specific objects means user master data, application data, client specific customizing data. But in these three, we don't, it won't create transport request for user master data, it won't create transport request for application data. And remaining is what? Client specific customizing data. That means if you change any client specific customizing data, it is automatically recording as a change request. That is the meaning of that. It doesn't, automatic recording of changes means it doesn't mean if you change user master data, if you change application data, if you change client specific customizing data, it will record as a transport request. No, it only record client specific customizing changes. Why means SAP restricted that even though user master data is a client specific data, but it won't create a transport request. It is against to the thumb rule of any software. So SAP restricted user master data to create a transport request. That means if I create a user in 100 client, it won't prompt, it won't record as a transport request. Clear? And business data, no concept of business data and development client. And remaining is what? Client specific customizing data. So if you change client specific customizing data, you can change, you can transport. Changes and transports for client specific objects means, can I change client specific customizing data? Yes. Can I transport? Yes, it is automatically recording as a transport request. So we go with this option. Is it clear with everyone? This setting.
So
Yes, Imtiaz. Is it clear?
okay, sir.
Okay. Otherwise, I'll try image. You should have clarity, boss. Okay. Okay. What are the? We are having 5 types of data, right? One is user master data, application data, and client specific customizing data. This is first setting. The second setting about cross-client customizing data and repository data.
Repository data.
So changes and transports for client-specific objects. This setting is changes and transports for client-specific
Specific object.
objects. Means not three, only this one he is referring to. He is referring to only this client specific customizing data. Why? User master data don't generate a transport request, no TR. Okay, for application data, no TR, no transport request will be generated. Only for client specific customizing data, it will creating a transport request. So this setting is for what? This setting you will go with automatic recording of changes, right? Automatic recording of changes. That means if you do any user master data, will it create a transport request? No.
No.
If you do any application data change, will it create a transport request? No. If you do any change in client specific customizing data, it will create a transport request. So client specific objects means he is only referring to client specific customizing data. Remember, we only move this client specific customizing, cross client customizing and repository. Is it fine? The second setting is what? See, cross client object changes. Cross client objects means cross client customizing and repository. These two are cross client data, right? The first option is changes to repository and cross client customizing allowed. Means I can change the repository objects as well as cross client customization. No changes to cross client customizing, no changes to repository, no changes to. If I use this no changes to repository and cross client customizing, what happens? It is a development client, then it won't allow you to do any modifications, enhancements and customizations and new developments in your repository objects. Is it fine with you? No. No changes to repository objects means you cannot do any changes to a standard program. No customization, no modification, enhancement, development. No. If you use this, no cross-client customizing objects you can change. No global settings you cannot change. So which one is good option here for a development client? Changes to repository and cross-client customizing should be allowed. And remember one thing, if you see here it is asking for two permissions, changes and transports. But here it is only asking for changes. It is not asking about can I transport or not, right? Because if you change any cross-client customizing or repository, if you do any cross-client changes, it should be recorded as a transport request. Here you have an option. You can change, but you cannot record as a transport request. You can change and you can record as a transport request. But here, if you change, it should prompt for a transport request. Remember that. So there is no option. If you change any cross-client data, cross-client customizing or repository data, immediately it will prompt for a transport request. Why? You have to move that to quality, quality to production. That's it. Here, your wish. If you select this, it will create as a transport request. If you select this, it won't create as a transport request. It will allow you to do client-specific customizing changes, but it won't record as a transport request. If you say this, so if I select this option and this option, by using this option, I can move client-specific customizing changes by using TR. By using this option, I can move cross-client customizing and repository by using TR. Yes or no?
Yes.
So everything
Yes,
I am
sir.
moving by using TR. So this will create TR. If I do anything to this only I need to move client-specific customizing, cross-client customizing and repository. So here the setting is changes for cross-client customizing objects. The setting will be what?
Changes to
Cross-client customizing and
Allowed.
repository allowed. If you say allowed, that's it. If you do any change to cross-client customizing and repository, it will create TRs. Here you have an option. Automatic recording of changes or changes without automatic recording. Why when we use that, we'll discuss later. Okay, as of now, only we need to move three data from development system. One is local settings, second one is global settings, and third one is the programs, reports, screens, menu options, whatever you do. Means these two are comes under customization. Client specific customization, cross client customization. These two comes under customization, right? And this repository, we do what we do modification, enhancement,
Development.
and development.
Development.
Everything is coming, right? You can, if you change some standard program, it is modification. If you add something to the existing program, it is called as enhancement. If you create a new new repository applet, it is a development. So modifications, enhancements, developments, and customizations, both client specific customizations and cross client customizations. So these two, client specific customization and cross client customization, comes under customization. These two are comes under customization, this and this. And for repository objects, we do modifications, enhancements, and developments. So local settings, global settings, and the modifications of the programs, enhancements of the programs, and the new developments of the programs. This we need to move to from development system to quality, quality to production. Is this clear with everyone?
Yes.
Customizations, modifications,
Yes, sir.
enhancements, and developments. Only we move that. But for example, if you create a user here, will you move that user, Kiran user? Will you move that user to quality?
No.
Will it create a
No, sir.
transport request?
No.
No.
No, sir.
If I create Samad user, will it create a transport request?
No.
No.
No, sir.
Oh, if I change my branch code, will it create a transport request?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If I change bank name, will it create a transport request? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
If I change a program, code, will it create a transport request?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
If I
Yes,
add
sir.
some new program to already existing program, will it create a transport request? Yes.
Yes, sir.
If I create a new program, will it create a transport request? Yes. If I change
Yes.
program, if I add to the program, if I create a new program, it will create a transport request. If I change company name, company code, it will create a transport request. If I change some branch code, whatever the changes I do, but if I create a user, it won't create a transport request. Application data means no discussion about application data in development system. In development system, you don't have application data means your business data. Do you have any transactions in development system? No. Development system you are using to change the software according to your requirement. Now you'll understand TMS. If you are good with this, you can understand TMS. And remember, have this sentence with you. If you do any client specific changes, it will be creating as customizing request. If you do any cross client changes, it will be creating as a workbench request. In a transport request, I told you, whenever you change something, it will prompt you for a transport request. This transport request also, we are having some different types of transport request. One is customizing request, second one is workbench request. Customizing request means client specific objects. If you do any changes to client specific objects, that is customizing request. If you do any cross client customizing or repository changes, that will create workbench request. Remember, have this word, we'll discuss later. So now today's topic is TMS, Transport Management System. Transport. Okay, can I remove this one?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes.
TMS. TMS means what? Transport Management System. Transport Management System. Or some people will call it as CTC, Change Transport System. Or some people will call it as CHAMS, Change Request Management System.
Request Management System.
Transport Management System, Change Transport System, or you can say Change Request Management System. Everything is TMS only. Everything is TMS only. So what is the concept behind this TMS? How you move the data from, that means, for example, you are having one system, right? This is my development system. Okay, this is my quality system. Okay, where you are having all the repository objects in application data or application layer or a database layer, all programs,
Database
reports, screens, menu
Database.
options.
Database layer.
In a database means all your programs, reports, screens, all entire software will be here, right? You are doing some changes in this software and you want to move that changes to this database, right? Here you will be having business data, DB repository, and business. We don't have any business data, but I'm writing that. Here also we don't have any dummy business data we are having here. This is your DB repository and this is your software. And technically we are saying repository data. So you are making some changes here. That changes you want to move to this database, right? So database is a logical one. Database is a logical one. Logical means what? Not a physical. It will save in the logical format. The data is saving in the logical format. Finally the data is storing in the hard disk. Database is not a physical drive, right? Database is a software which will manage your data in a structured format. Within the hard disk, it will create some logical boundaries in the form of tables, table spaces. In that, it will store your data. Then, for example, if I write one program here, I want to move that program to this database. This is logical. This is to logical. This is logical database. This is also logical database. I want to move the data from here to here, this database to this database. How you do that? By using TMS. TMS is a technology through which we move the content from one logical database to another logical database. The story behind this is, for example, if you are using some Java, if you are a Java developer, for example, if you are a Java developer, 10 developers are there. So when they are writing some program, where they write in their own system, they will be having one IDE tool. They open that tool and write some program and save. Where it will be saved? In their local desktop. Means this 10 developers will save their whatever their writings, whatever their developments in their own desktops. And they, for example, if you install one software in C drive, if you do something on that software, where the data is saving? There itself, right? The same way, if you take any other technology, the data is saving locally in their desktops in a physical format. So you can put a pen drive and copy that physical files from that local desktop. But in SAP, what you are having here at developer's PC, SAP GUI will be installed. When they create some program, where it is saving? Not in their desktop. It is coming and sitting at database level.
Database.
If they create a user here, if they create a sales order here, everything is saving centrally in the database. Unlike other softwares, the data is not saving locally. Here the data is saving centrally in the database. Nothing, you don't have nothing in your system, boss. Remember, only SAP GUI tool will be there. Just like a browser. By using browser, if you create a Gmail ID, Where it will be created in your browser or Gmail server?
Gmail system.
Gmail
Email
server.
server.
That is the same thing is happening in SAP also. You are why you are using that logon pad? Just to log in into SAP system. For example, this is on your desktop. You'll be having only this. If I open this, it is directly connecting to the database. And if I create a user here in this screen, where it is saving in a backend database, not on my desktop, right? But if you take any other software, whatever the developers will have some development tools. Whatever they do development, it will save locally in their desktops. You have to that are physical files. You can put pen drive and copy. But here into the logical database in SA. Now, how can you move all these developers' efforts are saving into this database directly? Now you want to move that developers' efforts from this database to this database. How you do that? It is a logical, not a physical one. If it is a physical, we can put a pen drive. If it is a logical, how you do that? For doing that, SAP introduced a mechanism called TMS, Transport Management System. What is transport, guys? Anyone? Transport.
Export and import.
Yes, exactly.
Export.
Transport comprises of export plus import. So here also we are doing what means from this database we export. For example, if you want to move this program to this database, first what we do, we export. Where you export? At application level. This is your application, na? You know the trans directory. In introduction classes, I told you to remember trans directory. USR, SAP, trans. There is a directory called trans directory. It is USR directory belongs to application or database. USR directory belongs to
Application.
application. So when you export, na, that program will go and sit here. Program will convert it from logical to physical format. Now you got physical file, na? That file you put here USR SAP trans. This system's a trans directory. You paste here program and say import. So logical formatted program converting into physical format. From physical, it is importing into the logical database. Means exporting to some location. From that location, we are importing into some other location. For example, you write some XYZ program. You write some XYZ program name. If you want to move that XYZ program to this database, now first of all you have to create a transport request. Just release the transport request. When you release the transport request, now that code, whatever you written, now that code will be going to your OS level, application level, XYZ. Now this is a physical file. In USR SAP trans, you will get that physical file. Copy that physical file and paste it into USR SAP trans of your quality system. That XYZ, which is in application layer. From this application, I am importing into the database. Now, if I import now, this XYZ file come into this database. So from this database, we are exporting and we are getting the physical file. That physical file we are copying and we are importing into the target database. From source database, we are exporting and copying into the target system's application level. From there, we are importing. Export, here import. Export and import is nothing but your transport. You can say export plus copy plus import. When you say export, the physical file will be created. That file you need to copy here. From there, we need to import here. This is what we call it as transport management system. Why we are using this mechanism? Only SAP is having this mechanism. Means in SAP the data is saving centrally, not locally in the developers desktops. That is the reason we need to maintain. We need to use this mechanism to move the data from one database to one logical database to another logical database. Everyone got it? The new people. From here again, copy this XYZ program to production systems USR SAP trans and say import. That will be imported into production system, production database. From one database to another database, how you move when it is a logical one? So what we do, we convert that into physical format. Now I'll move that physical format to quality system. From there I'll import into the logical database. Exporting, importing, exporting and importing. This is what your transport management system. Understandable or any doubt here?
Understandable.
Sir, understand.
You didn't get it?
Understand, sir.
Okay. See, so to understand this TMS concept, I divided this TMS concept into three parts. TMS, transport management system, into three parts. One is CTO plus TMS plus TP tools. CTO, TMS and TP tools. Okay, we'll discuss one by one, then you'll get to know what is exactly TMS. CTO, TMS and TP tools. What is CTO? CTO means Change Transport Organizer.
Change transport organization.
Change Transport Organizer. Change Transport Organizer. The T code for this is SE06. I'll explain you what is exactly that. Okay. CTO means Change Transport Organizer. The name itself suggesting it is the organizer for changes and transports. Whatever the changes you do and whatever the transports you do, the key factor is SE06. It is the Change Transport Organizer. It comprises of three things. One is customizing organizer. The T code is SE10. The second one is workbench organizer. The T code is SE09. And the third one is transport organizer. The T code is SE01. SE01. Okay. When you are configuring TMS is nothing but, first of all, you are having some three systems. This is development system, quality system, and your production system. To move the data from here to here, here to here, you need to draw some paths, right? This is your TMS configuration. Before configuring this TMS, you need to activate this change transport organizer by hitting SE06. I'll show you what is SE06. Okay, I'll go to SE06 T code. Hit SE06 T code. Before configuring TMS as a post installation activity, you have to hit SE06. You will get two options: standard installation, database copy, or migration. If it is a fresh installation, go with standard installation. If your system is result of database copy or migration, the next concept, okay, means already existing system, you build another system by using that system, that is called as a database copy. So as of now, select standard installation and perform post installation activities. Do you want to install CTS, change transport system? Yes. If you do this, what happens in a backend? If you do this, what happens in a backend? This CTO comprises of three things. One is customizing organizer, workbench organizer, transport organizer. These three functionalities will be activated. When you hit SE06 and say perform post installation activities, these three functionalities will be activated. and you install application separately, database separately. Database don't know applications information, applications SID. So when you hit SE06, the application SID will be stored into the database for the first time, and from this point onwards, whatever the changes you do in your database will be recorded as a transport request. If you activate SC06, then only all these requests will be recorded. Whatever, if you do some change in the database, if you want to record that, first of all you have to activate SC06, change transport organizer. Without this activation, the system will not record your changes. Please relog in. I'll explain you what exactly that. So the CTO comprises of three things: customizing organizer, workbench organizer, and transport organizer. So as a when you install your SAP system now, we have to do some post installation activities. In that activities, one is applying the license and importing the profiles, configuring background jobs, creating a client, and configuring TMS also one of the job. Okay, so to configure TMS, before doing this TMS part, you have to activate SC06, this change transport organizer. If you activate this change transport organizer, now what happens? It contains three things: customizing organizer, workbench organizer, and a transport organizer. So what exactly these functionalities will do? If you change any client specific data, if you change any client specific data, that will be recorded by customizing organizer as a customizing request. Remember this. I told you we are having some different types of transport request. Client specific data. If you change any client specific data, it will be recorded by customizing organizer as a customizing request.
Request.
If you do any cross client changes, it will be recorded by workbench organizer as a workbench request. As a workbench request. That's it. So overall we are having two things: client specific things, cross client things. If you do client specific changes, customizing organizer will record as a customizing request. If you do any cross client changes, workbench organizer will record as a workbench request. Now tell me, if I create a user, which type of transport request it will create? The new guys. If I create a user, which type of transport request it will create? Customizing request or a workbench request?
Amazing, sir.
Customizing request.
Customizing request.
Boss, user master data don't generate a transport request. Your answer should be this. Right? Client specific data. Yes, user master data is client specific data, right? Application data is client specific data, but they don't generate a transport request. In client specific data, only client specific customizing data will create a transport request. I told you, right? Now tell me,
Yes.
if I create a user, which type of transport request it will create? Customizing request or a workbench request? If I create a user, which type of transport request it will create?
No, sir.
Huh? Louder. If I create a user,
Customizing.
which type of transport request it will create?
No, sir. If any.
No transport request. No transport
Yeah.
request will create. If I change application data, which type of transport request it will create?
No
No
transport.
No
transport
transport
request.
request. If I change client specific customizing data, which type of transport request it will create?
Customizing.
Customizing request. If I change cross client customization, which type of transport request it will create?
Workbench request.
If I
Workbench
change
organizer.
any repository data, means if I do any modification, enhancement, or new development, which type of transport request it will create?
Transport organizer.
Transport.
Oi, oi. Workbench request only. Cross client customization, cross client data.
Cross client customization.
Cross client means cross client customizing as well as repository. Both comes under cross client only. I didn't explain you this now. So if I do any changes to client specific customization data, customizing request will create. If I do any changes to cross client customizing data and the repository
Workbench
data,
request.
repository data, it will create workbench
Workbench
request.
request.
Workbench.
Only 3 things you want to move from development to quality, quality to production. What are they? Client specific customizing data, cross client customizing data, and repository data. If I do local changes, which type of transport request it will create? If I do local changes,
Transport of pub.
Transport.
if I do local changes,
Client
Customizing
specific.
request. Client specific.
local changes means what was client
Local
specific
changes.
customizing data. I call it as local changes, right?
It's a client specific data.
For client specific customizing data. If I do global changes,
Cross client.
Workbench request.
Workbench
Client
request.
cross client customizing, that is cross client customizing, I call it as a global changes. This is local change. This is local settings, global settings, and your programs, reports, screens, menu options. These are comes under repository. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Wait for 1
Yes,
minute.
sir.
See, okay. If I change user master data, which type of transport request it will create?
We don't create any transport.
Don't care, sir. Anytime.
Sure,
Yes.
Yes, sir.
it won't create a.
Yes,
Are you sure? If
Yes.
I change user master
Yes, sir.
data, which type of transport request it will create?
There is no transfer request.
Transport.
For user master data, right?
User
If I
master
change
data.
application data, what type of transport request it will create?
It also doesn't
Not create any transport.
Okay. If I change client specific customizing data, which type of transport request it will create?
Customizing.
Customizing request. If I change cross client customizing data, which type of transport request it will create?
Workbench.
Request.
Workbench request. Repository data,
Workbench.
Workbench.
workbench request only. Clear? See, one more time. Now tell me. So if I do cross client customization, means global settings for these two clients, these settings are common. Client specific customizing means for this client separate customizing data, this client we are having client specific. Client specific customizing data, cross client customizing data, repository. Only we move these 3 things. User master data, application data, don't generate a transport request. Remember, this is
Screen, sir.
customizing request.
First,
Oh, wait.
share the screen, sir.
Client specific customizing data will create customizing request. Cross client customizing data will create workbench request. Repository data will create a workbench request. User master data don't generate a transport request. Application data don't generate a transport request. Simple. So what is change
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, user master data will not create any transport request, but when we are creating user master data,
Huh?
the data that when you which the data is having for the user, it will be in a data only, no?
Database.
Database only, na?
Yes.
Only what we create the first developer, in that only it will be stored. That one
Yes.
only, na?
Okay. Wait, I got your point. This is your development database. This is your quality database. This is your production database. So if you create some developer, here you created some 5 developers. Okay, 5 basis people. and 5 functional people. There will be in that database only. Here you will create 5 basis people separately, 5 functional people separately. Here you will create 5 basis people separately, and 20 functional people separately, and 300 end users separately. The users are different for each and every system. We need not to move that users from this system to this system, this system to this system. If I create 5 developers, if it is creating the transport request now, if it is creating transport request, you have to move that to quality, quality to production. That means all these 5 developers will come to your production also. I hope you got the point. And whatever you do, client specific customizations, cross client customizations, and repository will be there in this database, and this database. Only we are moving the, I have done some changes. The same changes I am replicating on here, and the same changes I am replicating here. I am not moving entire changes from here to here. Here also you will get that changes if you want. Got the point?
Yes, sir.
That changes will be in this database, and this database. That is what my landscape. Don't think that I have done some changes here and all the changes I'm moving to this here. Okay, I'll move the same copy here, same copy here. That change will be in this system and third system also. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The third one is transport organizer. Transport organizer means this transport organizer is used to, the name suggesting it is a organizer for transport request. You can create a transport request, you can rename a transport request, you can release a transport request by using transport organizer. Actually, these 3 are same T codes. If I show you now, there will be no change in the T codes. See, what is the T code? SC09, right? Second one, SC10,
SC10,
SC09.
and
SC01.
SC01. SC01. 3 are same T codes, but same screens. So you can create customizing request, workbench. Customizing request means if you do any client specific changes, customizing request it will create. If you do any cross client changes, workbench request will be created. That's it. If anybody asks you the difference between SC01, SC09, and SC10, you have to tell that. SC09 is for workbench organizer, SC10 for customizing organizer, SC01 for transport organizer. These all functionalities are under SC06. You have to activate this SC06 before configuring the TMS. Before configuring TMS, you have to activate SC06. From that point onwards, these 3 functionalities are activated. Now, whatever the changes you do, if you do any client-specific customizing changes, immediately workbench organizer will record that. If you do any cross-client customizing changes and repository changes in this database, workbench organizer will create as a TR. That will happen when you activate SC06 as a post-installation activity. What happened when you CTU, change transport organizer, means it change transport organizer, it comprises of 3 things, 3 functionalities. One is customizing organizer, workbench organizer, and transport organizer. When you hit SC06, these 3 functionalities will be activated. From that point onwards, whatever the changes you do, that will be recorded as a workbench request or a customizing request, depend upon the data. And for the first time, your application SID will be stored into the database, and it will generate an initial transport request ID. Transport request. The naming convention of transport request is, write down this, SID K 9 lakh
9
some 2
9,000.
9 lakh.
9 lakh.
This is your transport request ID. For example, if your SID is Dave, your transport request ID will be first created Dave K 2. For second change, Dave K 9 lakh 3. For third change, whatever, whether it is a customizing request or a workbench request, the naming convention is same. 2 may be customizing request, 3 may be workbench request, and 3 may be customizing request, whatever the request. That is one of the change request number. Dave K 9 lakh 2. For example, if I write one program here, XYZ program, it is a new development, right? What it will create? Workbench request or a customizing request?
Workbench request.
Workbench request. So the request is generated. If I create another program, ABC, new developments, workbench request, another request will be created. Like Dave K, some 9 lakh 3. If I do any change setting, my currency is called INR. It is also creating workbench request. Dave K, some 9 lakh 4. Whatever the request, workbench or customizing, the naming convention is same. For each and every change, one request number will be generated. Remember this naming convention: SID K 9 lakh and the request number. SID K 9 lakh request number. At anyhow, we'll discuss this later. Okay, we'll discuss this TMS concept for another 2 to 3 days. Maybe 3 days. Yesterday also we discussed the same. Today and another 3 days. For TMS, entire TMS concept we can cover. And last night we discussed TMS interview questions. Why you are not attending that session, boss? You guys? If you are having time now, just log in and